The Allen Line Company appreciates all of the dedicated carriers it takes to move loads across the U.S. Stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Mark Redding.
The Veterans Community Project is unique in that it doesn't just allow dogs into their communities, it welcomes them. We continue our coverage of Military Appreciation Month by detailing why VCP decided to let pets in and how it's become vitally important to their mission. The importance of creating a business plan was covered during one of the Pro Talks at the Mid-America Trucking Show. We speak with Andrew King of the OOIDA Foundation about how people can avoid being part of the 50% of businesses that will fail by their 5th year. And finally, spot freight volume increased 2.6% week over week. We'll have the latest on market conditions, including the ups and downs over the past 2 weeks, with Brent Hutto of TruckStop. But first, the news with Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Mark. Our top story today. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has denied a trucking company's request to let it use under 21 commercial learner's permit holders for the agency's apprenticeship pilot program. Pitt, Ohio, a trucking company based in Pittsburgh, made the request back in early 2023. The company said granting it would make it easier for them to recruit drivers for FMCSA's Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program. Currently, drivers in the program must hold a commercial driver's license and complete separate 120 and 280-hour probationary periods during their apprenticeship with registered motor carriers. In its denial, FMCSA said Pitt, Ohio failed to prove that granting such an exemption would produce an equivalent level of safety. As required in the 2021 Infrastructure and Investment Jobs Act, FMCSA created the Under 21 Apprenticeship Pilot Program in 2022. It's intended to accommodate up to 1,000 carriers and 3,000 enrolled apprentices at any given time, but interest in the program has been underwhelming. During FMCSA's annual Safety Research Forum in April, the division chief of the agency's Applied Research Division, John Mueller, noted the current number of program participants.
Currently, there are 40 approved carriers and 28 apprentice drivers operating, and 21 additional drivers have graduated or completed both of their probationary periods. Recruitment of motor carriers, experienced drivers, and apprentice drivers continues as we try to collect as much data as we can in order to determine if the SDAP program is meeting an equivalent level of safety compared to what is allowed by current regulations. We're expecting to have a final report in the summer of 2026.
Earlier this year, an appropriations bill removed some of the pilot program's restrictions in hopes of attracting more applicants, including the removal of driver-facing camera requirements. The pilot program is set to end in July of next year. The U.S. House of Representatives has passed a bill requiring more oversight of trucking companies contracted by the U.S. Postal Service. The Mail Traffic Deaths Reporting Act, if signed into law, would require the Postal Service to collect, track, and publicly report information related to deaths and injuries that result from crashes involving trucks contracted to transport mail. The agency would be required to publish an annual report with information from those reports. Failure to do that could result in fines, contract suspensions, or termination of contracts altogether. The bill follows a report that revealed a contracting system with little to no vetting or monitoring, which allowed unsafe motor carriers to obtain contracts and keep them. The report also pointed out a lack of accountability for truck drivers who were involved in deadly crashes. With the bill passing the House, it now heads to the Senate. In an attempt to deter fraud and improve an outdated system, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration is working toward modernizing the registration process. The agency will hold a second registration modernization stakeholder day on May 29th. The virtual event, open to the public, will run from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. FMCSA previously announced plans to replace its unified registration system with a new online version named FMCSA Registration. The change, designed for a few reasons. One result FMCSA hopes is rooting out some of the fraud that has been rampant in recent years. The agency is launching a new group called the FMCSA Registration Fraud Team with that mission in mind, and the new system is meant to close some of those gaps as well, as Ken Riddle, director of FMCSA's Office of Registration, explained during day one of the agency's Safety Research Forum last month.
The fraud mitigation is not going to wait on this new system. We have to implement that as soon as we can. And then when this system is rolled out, we will integrate those new solutions, the fraud-resistant solutions, into the new system. So we're not going to wait on the new system. But at the forefront of this new system will be fraud-resistant security features. The new system will streamline the registration process. It'll be a lot more intuitive and not quite as cumbersome as what our customers and our registrants experience today. It'll be an improved user experience, and it will improve the quality of the data that we collect, which I think everybody in this group will recognize the benefit. We're going to have real-time data validation, smart logic, and edit checks that'll help reduce the errors, the bad data, the mistakes as a registrant fills out the application. And then lastly, it's going to consolidate most all of the forms that we have today into one online system. And that online system will be intuitive so that it won't ask you questions that you don't need to answer. So if you say, I don't carry hazmat, it's not going to ask you a bunch of hazmat questions. It will ask you the next question based on how you answered the previous question.
FMCSA's new registration system is expected to be rolled out later this year or in early 2025. The manufacturer of a popular CPAP machine has reached a settlement regarding recalled devices that could impact millions of users. In 2021, Royal Philips issued a voluntary recall of select ventilators, CPAP, and bi-level PAP machines over concerns that foam used to dampen sound in the machines could degrade and become toxic or possibly cancerous. Roughly 15 million machines worldwide were affected by that recall. Under the settlement with the Food and Drug Administration, Philips Respironics agreed to pay damages totaling $1.1 billion to users of the recalled machines. The company said those payments are expected to begin in 2025. Under the settlement agreement, users are entitled to a $100 award if they return their recalled device by the claim deadline of August 9th. The owner of an Ohio trucking company is facing prison time over allegations of tax evasion. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Ohio says a federal grand jury has indicted Alice Martin on 7 counts related to tax evasion. Prosecutors claim she received over $3.6 million in unreported taxable income between 2013 and 2018 and ducked out of about $1.2 million in taxes. Daimler has pulled the curtain back on a new self-driving Freightliner model. The new battery-electric e-Cascadia truck is equipped with Torque's autonomous driving software. Daimler says they've already been testing out the software in Freightliner Cascadia trucks through carriers like CR England, which has been using self-driving trucks to haul freight between Phoenix and Oklahoma City for several months now. Daimler has set 2027 as a target date for deployment of the new model in the United States. And finally, Samuel L. Jackson would be proud of TSA agents in Miami for not allowing a couple of snakes on a plane. A bit of odd news out of Miami International Airport, where customs officers found a small bag of snakes hidden in a passenger's pants at a checkpoint. The Transportation Security Administration detailed what happened on a social media post, posting a photo of the 2 snakes that were found in what appears to be a bag of sunglasses. TSA said the snakes were turned over to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Scott Thompson.
Thanks, Scott. Congratulations to Brian Peters of Bellbrook, Ohio. He's received the OOIDA Safe Driving Award for 38 years of safe, accident-free driving. That's the equivalent of a car driver going 285 years without causing a single accident. The OOIDA Safe Driving Award program is sponsored by Shell Rutella. On Thursday, Marty Ellis and OOIDA's tour truck, The Spirit of the American Trucker, will be at the Speedway location in Calvert City, Kentucky. That's located at exit 27 off Interstate 24. Stop in, say hi to Marty, and join OOIDA for a $10 discount. Next, Scott Thompson has the story of how pets became an integral part of the Veterans Community Project. I'm Mark Rettig, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Capital Reman is your leading source for quality remanufactured engines and components. Capital Reman stands ready to serve all OOIDA members to help reduce costly engine repairs and replacement. Visit capitalreman.com today and use code OOIDA10 to save.
Get the most power and performance out of your rig with Howe's Diesel Defender. It provides maximum lubricity and contains specialized IDX4 detergent to clean and prevent deposits and safely removes harmful water. Visit HowesProducts.com for more information.
Attention professional drivers, do you owe money to the IRS? Integrity Tax Relief Group frees drivers from IRS trouble. Call for help now, 855-976-4291. That's 855-976-4291.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline Now, welcome back. As our nod to our nation's heroes this Military Appreciation Month continues, by now you hopefully know what the Veterans Community Project, or VCP, is all about, providing a home and a support system for veterans who have hit a rough patch, many dealing with homelessness, but true to that sacred commitment they make on the field of battle to never leave a man behind. The same rule applies for some when they come back home. Only in this case, with this story, it's the same creed, but for their dogs. Some of them, no matter the circumstance they may find themselves in, would rather stay on the street than leave their canine companion behind, understandably so. And while many communities that offer help to veterans do not allow pets to come along, VCP is different, explains Veteran Engagement Manager Johnny Neal.
Most organizations, especially in the homeless world, won't allow them to bring their pets into wherever they're getting housed at temporary transition housing, whether it's shelters or stuff. And at VCP, we realize that the pet is part of their family, and we bring them in, and that's such a relief for the veteran now that they'll seek services more likely because they're able to bring their pet with them. So that's pretty amazing what we're doing with that.
And that's how it works. If a veteran in need has a canine companion they want to bring along to any of the VCP tiny home communities, they can. No questions asked. It's that way now, and it's been that way from the beginning, says Executive Director Chris Admire.
Yeah, it was in kind of the original plan of the co-founders that they actually went to the streets and talked to veterans, and it's like, what's keeping you? Why aren't you coming off the streets? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And one of the things that a lot of these individuals led with was, I'm not leaving my pet.
That is a sentiment Neal understands.
Like, my dog's here tonight, the big Bernie Doodle, and if he and I were out homeless and I couldn't bring him with me, we're going to stay homeless because that dog is part of my family, you know? So I totally understand that. You wouldn't leave your children. Why would you leave your pets, you know? They become part of our families over time.
VCP Community Engagement Coordinator Casey Brizuela says the policy they have in place holds a lot of weight because it's a policy that can often mean the difference between a veteran staying in a bad situation and a veteran getting some much-needed help.
That is a barrier for a lot of those that are housing unstable. If they're out on the street and they have the opportunity to have shelter, but if they are not allowed to bring their pets with them, they will remain unsheltered. It's just a fact. Their pets are like family members to them. Sometimes they are the only family that they have. That pet is that most trusted, vital part of that veteran and that veteran's life, and it's essential for them to be able to maintain that relationship with that pet and to be able to continue to care for it. They will not leave their pet behind.
You may have heard some festivities in the background of the people we're hearing from in this story. We pulled them aside at a special function meant to raise money for this very purpose for the veterans who come to VCP with a canine companion in tow. The Veterans Community Project held a fundraiser the first week of May called Battle Buddies and Bottles in Johnson County, Kansas.
So this was an idea last year of one of the staff members to say, let's just have an event and celebrate a big part of our village, our transitional housing program in Kansas City that embraces having pets and what they mean to our residents, and then kind of bringing it to the community because we're kind of about connecting our mission with the community. And as you can kind of see, the community has responded in bringing out and celebrating their pets and supporting us at the same time.
celebrating their pets and raising money for them. Keep in mind that VCP handles expenses for the veterans that pass through, and that includes their pets.
In our village and our community center here in Kansas City, we have a dog wash station as well as a veterinary care room in our community center building for our village residents. We have a vet that attends and provides services every month. So it's really crucial and vital that we're helping to continue to support and provide those resources and spaces for those veterans to ensure that they are taking care of those pets just like we're trying to take care of those veterans. We also do it through our commissary services and through our outreach. We're there to provide resources, food, and things for those pets to ensure that they are being taken care of as well.
And that, of course, requires money.
Yeah, so this event is really focused on the pets that we have in our village and the veterans that have pets. There's a lot of, pet bills, food supplies, things like that. And this event particularly helps us be able to meet that need of our veterans that we're serving in Veterans Community Project. If a veteran is struggling with his own food insecurity, his pet's going to be struggling. And this allows us to raise those dollars that help us feed their animals so that they could work on those barriers that they're trying to knock down every day. Like, we'll have the veterinarians come out to the village. In our community center, we actually have a vet exam room that the veterans can work in. There's a cost to the veterans that are the vets that are coming in to provide the services. And so we want to be able to eliminate that cost for our veterans so that they could take care of their pets and work on the things that are important to them solving the homeless problem that they're facing.
There are particular events that bring all of this into focus. Admire told the story of a resident whose dog recently changed the trajectory of his life.
Yesterday, one of our residents had to put his pet down, and I was sitting in talking with Jamie, the head of our residential program, and he was obviously hurt, and he was like, well, I hope she had a good last few months of her life. And we were like, well, look, she was here. And he goes, no, we said, you brought her here. And he goes, no, it's just the opposite. He goes, she brought me here. And that's the only reason that I came here initially. And there's a different reason I'm here now. He goes, now I'm here for me. And it was just kind of one of those emotional moments where I just looked at Jamie and I was like, okay, I'm talking about this tomorrow night. So very impactful thing. So it's incredibly, it's easy to kind of talk about and say things about it, but when you see it walk in the door and you see what this pet meant to this individual, that hits you in the heart. So it's a cool thing.
The Veterans Community Project is there to help in 4 communities now across the United States, but Brizuela says they're just getting started.
We now have 4 campuses. Beyond Kansas City, we are also in St. Louis, Missouri, Longmont, Colorado, and Sioux Falls, South Dakota, with villages being built there. We are looking to go into Glendale, Arizona, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin currently. So, in our short little 7 years that Veterans Community Project has been around, we've really expanded, and other cities have seen the impact that we've made here in Kansas City and want to see how they can help their veterans in their communities as well.
The tiny homes provided for veterans provide a temporary space of transition while vets get their lives back on track, and it's all done with a purpose. You hear the term tiny home, and you might have your own interpretation of what that might look like, but Brittany Schmitz, VCP Program Manager of Merchandising, says the homes are well thought out with the needs of veterans at front of mind.
We try really hard to, though, and our placement of our tiny homes, the windows, the front door, all of it is methodical. Our entire village is laid out very methodically and through combat veteran eyes. And then on top of that, our CEO actually lived in our tiny home village for about 6 months so that he understood exactly what we've built, and then we've made changes and upgrades from then. We didn't realize how many outlets we didn't have, or little things here and there to make life a little easier for any resident that is to move in. Yeah. So we really take everything that we do to heart, and it's been a lot of work, but everything has been absolutely worth it, every single minute.
And while the tiny homes often get the headlines, rightfully so, since it's a big step toward righting a ship that may have gone wayward, it's the services provided at VCP that lay the foundation for a new chapter. VCP staff are there to help veterans find a job, get medical checkups, and really whatever else they might need. And Schmidt says the qualifications for getting in are pretty simple.
It isn't based on your discharge status. If you have raised your right hand and taken that oath, we have taken the oath to serve you. So we're here to serve those who have served us. And it doesn't matter if it's your family or you just need to come in for commissary day. We're here also to connect you to all the other communities and networks that are in Kansas City. Whenever we first kind of started, we like to say that we weren't creating the wheel, we were just filling in the holes to basically try and connect everybody. So not all of us are able to know exactly what's out there, and that's what VCP is for, is to show you what all you have available to you, and if not, even figure out new ways and links to help you out wherever it is that you need help, whether that be a job, a home, financial needs, car getting fixed, food, clothing. We got you covered. And if we can't do it, then we will find somebody that will help you.
I asked Chris Admire what he'd want you to know about VCP, about what they do, what they're trying to accomplish, how you can help. And this is what he had to say.
One, that this is an organization that was a grassroots movement by a handful of combat vets that just said, we're going to change the lives of veterans, regardless of their length of service, what they did in the military, how they were discharged. We're going to figure out how to say yes. We're going to figure out how to overcome barriers and kind of let the community get involved. This thing is expanding through the country. So as they're driving around, it's like, oh, I'm near Longmont, Colorado. I'm going to swing by the VCP there. We have houses there and we're housing veterans. Sioux Falls, South Dakota, we have a village there and we're housing veterans and serving veterans there. Same thing with St. Louis, Missouri, and of course ours in Kansas City. But it's just, as you said, we do things differently, and in the way we do it, it's just, we don't take federal money that looks at the definition of a veteran. We don't look at the definition of homeless like some people do or don't. If you're out there, one of our current residents was a truck driver for 5 years, and that was her home. Didn't have a place to go, and would go to truck stops to shower, and that was her life. And she had to, leave that option when she got sick. So it's for anybody that's out there that might be in that situation. Think about that. But yeah, the goal of this organization is we say we want to end veteran homelessness. We're putting a serious dent in it. We want to change nationally the conversation around what a homeless veteran is, and what struggles veterans are burdened with every day. And we want to figure out how to break down all those barriers in any way possible.
And as we recognize Military Appreciation Month here at Landline Now, as we tell the stories of those who are making a difference on the ground level for veterans who gave up so much and need our help now, Casey Brizuela says thanks to all who contribute in whatever form that may take.
Well, I think it's all been positive just to be able to, have that space, know that that pet is also going to be a part of the community, is just as valued as that person. They're such a vital part to that veteran. So we understand that, and we always are encouraging of that relationship and want to provide that support. And I think those veterans identify that. They feel that they have a place where they're understood and cared for because they can maintain ownership of those pets and continue to provide care for those pets. So just being able to have that place, a stable home where they have a roof over their head so that they can take care of that pet as well is essential. So having the support, having OOIDA being able to sponsor this event is phenomenal. You're really continuing to help us reach those veterans that sometimes we can't reach because of that barrier of not being able to maintain ownership of their pet through permanent stable housing. Thank you, OOIDA, for allowing us to continue to provide service and care for those pets in our village. We really appreciate it.
For more information on the Truckers for Troops campaign, head to www.ooida.com/truckers-for-troops. For Landline Now, I'm Scott Thompson, and we're back right after this.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off TruckStop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Landline Now, welcome back. Andrew King joins me now. He is the Assistant Director for the OOIDA Foundation. Andrew, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I know we spoke some before the Mid-America Trucking Show about your Pro Talk session, but I wanted to bring you in after to discuss it with you. And starting off, just tell me, what was your session at MATS? What did you talk about?
So we basically did one session that we do in Truck to Success, and that's how to create a business plan. Obviously, that's a very important aspect of even thinking about coming into trucking or any business for that matter, but especially trucking and becoming an owner-operator. So we wanted to kind of get that out there as somewhat of a teaser to be both educational, but also to invite people to learn more and perhaps even participate or partake of the Truck to Success seminar.
Now, you started off with some statistics to show how new trucking businesses go the first few years. Tell me more about that and what those look like.
Yeah, and this is another reason why we want to do this segment is this is a huge issue. Obviously, we don't want anyone to fail. If you're giving into something like trucking, you're spending potentially $100,000, more than that even, to get the truck and maybe a trailer and all the insurance and all that kind of stuff. And so we hate to see anyone fail. But what we see from statistics from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, as well as even our own that we do in-house, that failure rate for the first year is between 20 and 30%, which is pretty high. And then even if you go a little bit longer into the tenure of the business, when we reach year 5, over 50% are failing. And so like I always like to share when we're doing this sort of seminar, this class is, picture everyone in the room and imagine over half of you will not be here, will not make it. And that's pretty staggering, And then one of the stories I always like to tell about this is when I started at OOIDA in the Permits and Licensing Department, and one of the first days I was there, I was sitting on a call with an agent, and this member guy called in, and he said, "I just bought a truck. Now what do I do?" And I'm thinking in my mind, "Are you kidding? Are you serious?" I mean, I don't know anything about trucking, but I know that that's a really bad idea. And so the hope is that no one picks that to be their business plan. Hopefully they actually have a plan, because what he had was no plan, and I'm sure that did not go well.
And that's probably not the first time you've heard of somebody who's just gone out thinking, well, I just need to buy a truck, and then everything else falls into place, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not uncommon for people to call in to OOIDA and ask, how do I get loads? Or now where do I get loads from? As if that's something that we do. And again, that shows they obviously haven't done much planning. They don't really understand the business. If you can't even acquire freight, you probably shouldn't make that step. But, I guess you'd be surprised how many people just take that leap of faith, I guess. But imagine for individuals such as that, the failure rate is much higher.
Yeah. Now, you do dig into a few more of the reasons businesses fail. Can you briefly go over what some of those are?
Yeah, the top 3 reasons for why businesses fail is, 1, the lack of sufficient capital, which we kind of alluded to earlier, just that most trucking companies, it takes a lot to get into trucking. And so something that we always recommend is that you have at least 6 months of cash on hand, or, because if anything goes wrong, if you have a breakdown or God forbid someone hits you, you get into some type of accident and you still have to pay all these bills, but you don't have anything like an emergency fund to help keep you afloat, that's going to it's going to end your business real quick. Number 2 is the inadequate management. And so, a lot of people are really good at driving a truck, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at a business. There's, especially if you're with your own authority, keeping up with all the different permits and things that you have to do. Some are yearly, some are monthly, some are quarterly. And just keeping track of all of that. And then on top of that, taxes and things of that nature, that can be quite a difficult undertaking. And then number 3 is what we've already kind of mentioned, and that's the poor business planning, or in the case of that one guy, no business planning, is a big one. So, they don't have a goal. They don't have any way of tracking what they're doing. And if you can't track it, you can't measure it to see whether you're actually succeeding or not, or if your goal needs to change. And that's kind of the purpose of this class.
Now, in the session, you mentioned Truck to Success, which I'll ask you about in a minute. But one of the things you mentioned that I thought was interesting was about the importance, of course, of having a business plan, but also the importance of understanding what you're getting into. Have you found there is a misconception on what it actually takes to start and maintain a successful trucking business?
I think for some, absolutely, not understanding the costs in particular. They might have talked to people, maybe they have friends or family member or what have you, that have talked about how much money they can gross in a year. I can make $250,000 in a year, and all this sort of thing. And that's great, and that sounds like a lot, and it is to a certain degree. But what about your costs? And especially if you're going to become an owner-operator with your own authority, insurance is a huge chunk. Some who have been leased on for a while, they like to say, well, I want to get 100% of the pie. I don't want anyone else taken out so on percent, But it might actually be better for you to potentially stay as a leased on owner-operator. You could be maybe even more successful, or at least not have as much headache, dealing with all of the paperwork and just everything that goes with owning your own business. That might not be the step for you. And so what we have found in Truck to Success, this is another story I like to tell. One of the first times we did this, someone came in, and the very first day, and this is a 3-day seminar, the first day they said, I want to be a fleet owner, a small fleet owner. That was, they were so excited about that. And then by day 2, they came back and they said, well, I've thought about this a little bit more. Maybe I don't want to be a small fleet owner, but I definitely want my own authority. That's my dream, And then day 3, he said, I think I'm just going to put this on the shelf for a while. I'm going to stay leased on and get more understanding of the business before I even try to go forward. And so I view that as a success, even though they didn't actually get their own authority. To me, that's exactly what we want. We want people to realize what actually it takes, like what you're mentioning, to make this step. And if you're not ready, rather than take that risk, we'd like to hopefully educate you in a way that maybe there's a few more things you need to learn before you do take that step.
Yep. And I know one of the things you mentioned in your session, just things that people wouldn't naturally think of. I think you mentioned one person who started and he was like, I'm gonna go in all 48 states. I want to be able to go everywhere. Talk to me about that.
That is a big one, especially in permits and licensing. I would hear this all the time. Is where do you plan on running? And the immediate answer is I plan on running everywhere. Well, that actually is unrealistic, and it's also costly. So different states, depending on where you're running, require different permits. It also is going to impact your insurance and how much you're paying on your premiums. And so just a blanket statement of I'm going to run everywhere is not exactly helpful. It's better if you have a region or a particular area in the country, or even a couple lanes that that you can run that will keep you successful even in a downturn like now. I've been talking to some of our board members who have been in the business 40, 50 years. They're very successful, and just asking them, how did you get to where you are now? And it was all about building relationships and then finding the freight that worked for them, where they're running basically 1 or 2 lanes. They're not running all over the place, and they're doing something that's very niche. And so it has basically kept them safe from all the other stuff, the turmoil that's going on in the freight market. And so just having that kind of understanding is really beneficial.
Now, in your experience, when people have come to OOIDA for advice on getting started, or those who have attended Truck to Success, are they people that are brand new to the industry and just decided they wanted to start a trucking business, or are they drivers who've been with a company and want to go out on their own, or is it a mixture of both?
Honestly, it's a mixture, which is kind of surprising to me. When we first started doing this, my assumption was going to be that most people would be company drivers who are wanting to make that step. or maybe even someone who's brand new that hasn't done anything yet. But there actually are a number of people who sign up for the seminar who already have their own authority. And I would say it's maybe not quite half, but it's a significant portion, which to me is somewhat surprising. But it goes to show the purpose of Truck to Success is not just how to become an owner-operator, but how to be successful. And that third day is where we really focus on different tips and things that can help you grow your business or stay in business, to be successful. And so I would say it's a mixture.
One thing when I sat in on Truck to Success a couple years ago, I found interesting is, obviously the information OOIDA is giving out is helpful, but also they talk to each other.
Yes. The networking is really good. We offer this seminar through Zoom, and you can even take it now. You don't have to wait till October. You could go and purchase the recording of it. But what you're missing out is like just what you're talking about. The networking, they grow friends. And even some of the vendors, that come, we don't have very many. Most of the people who are talking are from OOIDA, but, we have tax specialists and things like that. So they can build that kind of relationship, ask any question they want, hang out after for dinner, and just kind of build that understanding. And even that could be helpful as far as answering questions of what does and doesn't work.
Do you find, when the drivers, they think, well, I've been driving for X amount of years, I got a good understanding of the industry. Starting a business shouldn't be too hard. Do you find that's some of the mindset?
Sometimes, and even just here earlier today, I was talking to someone in the building, and they mentioned something similar to this, where someone thought that they knew everything, and then they came and they listened to just even a portion of Truck to Success, and they realized, I have a lot to learn. And maybe that's true anywhere, but I feel like especially in trucking, you always have something to learn. And so these courses can help anyone. Everyone has an opportunity to grow. And I hope that people take that kind of mindset, because when you come with the mindset of I already know everything, there's nothing they can teach me, you often are missing out on a lot of things.
One of the points you made during your presentation was on a business's name. Why is that so important?
Well, you are marketing yourself, and that's one thing we talk about in creating a business plan is marketing. How are you actually going to obtain freight? And some of that has to do with even how you present yourself and your company. And if you might pick some name that in your mind you think is really cool or maybe even funny, but in a professional world, if someone has two different carriers that they're wanting to choose from in order to move their freight, are they going to choose one that has this crazy weird name or one that has a little bit more of a professional feel? And so even something like that might seem silly and really, small, but it can be a big thing, how exactly you're presenting your company, including what you name your company.
Now, your talk at Matt's was, a part of what is offered at Truck to Success. What else does Truck to Success offer?
So it's a 3-day seminar. And again, it takes someone from being a company driver on the first day. So you're looking at, how to look at a truck, new versus used, and even the dangers of lease purchasing. And then what do you look for to lease on and some of the pitfalls of that. And day 2 kind of transitions into becoming your own carrier. So we talk about permits and licensing and insurance and drug and alcohol consortium. That second day is super overload. And then that third day is where we really transition into, okay, now that you are a carrier, what are some of those things that you can use to your advantage? And so we have different people come in, even using something like a load board at first. And how do you build relationships? How do you even find small shippers and manufacturers that you can basically build a direct contact with? Because a Walmart's not going to pick you. You're one truck. They need more than that. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. And so much more depth than that. And even taxes and how you build your entity structure is a big portion of that as well. And that one, I think, is a huge benefit.
When is this year's Truck to Success, and how does somebody sign up?
So it's October 22nd through the 24th, and they can sign up by going to trucktosuccess.com. They can sign up in person or via Zoom.
All right. Andrew, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
That was Andrew King talking about his Pro Talk session from Matt's on creating a business plan. To see that full session, you can visit Landline Media on YouTube to watch. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone tires are for more of everything, with more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet. Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Learn more at bridgestonenationalfleet.com/4moremiles.
Today's rising costs affect everyone. Replace your harmonic damper with a genuine ViberTech TVD viscous damper to prevent costly repairs and downtime. Keep your money in your pocket and your truck on the road with ViberTech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. If you're hauling freight and running your own business, you need to keep track of some basic facts and figures that can determine whether you succeed or fail. And that includes finding the freight and how much money you can make hauling it. Today, Landline Now's Ashley Blackford will bring us some of that information and get some insight as to why things are happening with the folks from TruckStop.com. Here's Ashley now with a report.
Thanks, Mark, and hello once again to Brent Hutto from TruckStop. How are you doing today, Brent?
Well, Ashley, I am doing fantastic. I'm in Colorado, hanging out with some family, and it's always good to be around your family. My wife's family, has a lot of them are in Colorado, so I'm out here visiting some family, and I'm happy to be on today with Landline Live.
Nice. Let's start out by taking a look at the current market conditions. I know you always have a theme song to go along with this, and one of these times I'm going to get you to sing it. But tell me, what's going on?
Oh, my gosh, you're going to get me to sing it. Well, I'll tell you what, Blinded by the Light's got that one of those lines, is my theme this time, because we've kind of had some ups and downs, and like maybe there's some light at the end of the tunnel, and then it kind of comes back down. It's kind of been this way for the last year and a half almost in trucking, but yeah, Blinded by Light has one of those lines in it that nobody knows what it is. And it's the second line that goes, it says, blinded by the light, wrapped up like a deuce, another runner in the night. Nobody knows what it means, but that's the actual line. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, actually, I always like to start, and thank you so much for always wanting to start with the current market conditions, because, you know, in trucking, we, especially in the spot market where a lot of the OOIDA members and the TruckStop carriers operate, which are the small owner-operator and small carrier types. It's all day to day, you know, because the rates you have today on, you know, is not maybe the rates you'll have tomorrow and not the rates you're going to have on Friday, because it changes in the supply and demand marketplace every day inside the spot market. Now, sometimes that's a good thing because you can really maximize your rate in it. But I use this song just because we've had some kind of ups and downs in the market. In the last 7 weeks or 8 weeks, we've had above normal pressure. I like to talk about the pressure in the market. Like, is it more favorable for carriers in the market or not as favorable for carriers in the marketplace? And you would think that it's more favorable for the carriers, but really rates have been so depressed for carriers. When you think of inflation and cost and fuel, it really hasn't felt like it's been good for carriers. But the overall pressure in the market went down some the last 2 weeks, or actually the last 3 weeks. But the last week, by the way, just for all the Landline Live listeners, the data that I bring from TruckStop is the data from the last 7 days. So it's the freshest freight data in all of transportation. So, but it went down in the 60s, but it came back up last week into 70s, which means the marketplace is still kind of bumping along at this sort of. If you do a lot of homework in it, you can probably survive through it. If you don't, then a lot of stuff that you move is marginal. But load posting volumes is what I look at from the market demand index. That's when I said it was in the 60s and 70s. 71.82 this week is the market demand index. But the load posting volumes are within the market demand index, and they actually increased week to week. They had 2 weeks of decreases, and they went back up last week. And the thing that I'd love for the listeners to think about is that the actual load availability in the market is still almost 7.5% above what it normally is in any year. So there's plenty of freight in the marketplace, but you got to look for it, because rates, even with and when I talk rates, I mean rates with fuel. because you got to always think about the fuel in this thing. Stayed the same. They were $2.37, and they were 2 weeks ago, and they were $2.37 last week. But the big increase, and so if you're a reefer hauler out there, I hope it was a great week for you, because there was a 16-cent increase in the per mile rate to haul refrigerated freight, which is, man, that's super profitable. And so I hope that those that haul freight out there on the reefer side had a good week hauling freight. When you look at when you continue to go into the marketplace, you look at things like the other things that are sort of the indicators on the contract marketplace. That's the bigger part of the market and kind of where it is. Well, it's still kind of like the contract marketplace is still kind of taking all the freight that they can get. So we're going to see the spot market kind of where it is for the next few weeks, and really not much more beyond that.
What are some of the top regions and lanes from last week?
Yeah, Ashley, I tell you what, that's one of the things that I like to talk to carriers about all the time is, look, there's so much data out there for carriers in the market, a small carrier in the marketplace, that you can run your business and compete with the big carriers. All right, now I realize you may be hauling one load or two loads at a time, but you can still compete from the standpoint you have access to that data, so you get to choose from what you want to haul. So I like to think about what are the regions and the lanes. The regions that had good increases week over week were really kind of across the board, anywhere from almost a 3% gain to almost a little over a 5% gain, almost a 6% gain. Like Midwest was almost 6% week over week. So there was more loads available in the Midwest, but across the board, other than the Mountain Central, which is kind of where I am in the Mountain Central, the Denver area, everybody had more freight in it. That's why the market demand index went up. And rates kind of about the same. Other than Northeast had about a 2% increase, Midwest had about a 1% increase. Everybody else was kind of down about 1%, which means it's just kind of like bumping along at a normal amount. But when you look at the different lanes that are being hauled out there, and where would you look? Some of the biggest increases, I know we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Phoenix to Houston, Texas to Arizona, really a good lane. Texas to Texas. Texas has been good. Dallas to Denver. These are all dry van lanes. Those were 16% increases across the board for all three of those different hauls. So in that that's why I always encourage carriers, look really closely. On the flatbed end, we saw 18% increases. Houston again, Texas to Salt Lake, Detroit to Houston, back to Texas. So it seems like Texas has gained a lot. By the way, I saw a really neat statistic that the Texas marketplace has gained a considerable share of more volume of freight in it over the normal increases in the country, by tune of about 32% more than the other part of the country. So it's really an interesting statistic, because you want to look everywhere you can. Reefer, as I saw the big increases there, we talked about 36% increase, 28% increase. Denver to Phoenix, again, Phoenix seems to be a popular place, 36% increase, 28% increase from $2.88 to $3.70. Savannah to Charlotte, obviously that's an East Coast haul, but there's good freight out there, and the thing to do is just keep your eyes open. Just keep looking and know what's going on in different parts of the market so you can take advantage of it.
What are some important industry points owner-operators should be aware of?
The U.S. consumer is getting a little less optimistic about the overall economy. We're heading into election season here, so they're getting a little more optimistic. They're probably not spending as much. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what's going on in that. And then the other thing I also like to look at is, what's the price of diesel? Now, look, this is unique. If you're a small carrier out there, the OOIDA member, the TruckStop customer, fuel prices don't really matter, because you negotiate every single load independently. You need to know what the fuel prices are and what the fuel surcharge index is, so you can negotiate against it. But fuel, as long as you are getting 6 miles to the gallon or 6.5 miles to the gallon, if you're getting that, you're staying even with fuel. If you're getting better, this is so cool, Ashley. If you're a small carrier out there and you're getting better than 6.5 miles a gallon, you're making money against the fuel surcharge index. So what you want is greater fuel mileage in your truck. I know nobody wants to slow their truck down, but if it put money in your pocket, you might want to consider it. So fuel actually dropped below $4. So that's kind of a good thing, because it shows more stability in the fuel prices out there. And then the last thing I want to talk about is what I was talking about, like, you always want to look at how marketplaces change, So when Yellow went bankrupt back a few months ago, it was a bad thing for the LTL marketplace, but it was opportunity for everybody else. And Knight-Swift, the biggest player in the marketplace, Knight-Swift US Express, now is moving into LTL, because that big amount of freight that was moved by Yellow now is available for everybody. So U.S. Express was doing that. And so if you're a small carrier, I'm not encouraging you to go into LTL. That's its own really unique part of the market. But look at where there's opportunity. Like when I said there was 16 cents, more last week in reefer, I realize that's a unique type of haul. Refrigerator's not dry van, it's not flatbed. But look at where marketplaces are expanding, and you certainly can grow your business from there. So that's kind of what's going on in the industry, Ash.
All right, Brent, thank you so much.
Man, always great to be on with Landline and support the members of OOIDA.
All right, that was Brent Hutto with TruckStop. Mark, back to you.
Thanks, Ashley. That's our program for today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome,
and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.